Hi, my name's Elly Greaney and I'm the Commercial Director at Transition Partners. We're a tech recruitment consultancy with an office in Leeds covering the UK market and an office based in Berlin. I've worked within tech for the past 5 years and find the market fascinating. I'm really passionate about helping women not only get in tech, but really advance their career with an exciting industry that can provide endless opportunities. I love networking and finding out about other people's stories. I decided to set up the journey of a woman in tech to share knowledge, wisdom, and hopefully have a laugh along the way. Feel free to get in touch on LinkedIn to see how you can get involved. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to the journey of a woman in tech. I am so delighted today because we're welcoming Melanie Calver on the show, who is the Digital Services Practice Manager at BPDTS, who, if you don't know them, they provide all the digital technology services to the DWP. She's also a living leader trainer, helping others access their personal leadership skills. And I first had the opportunity to hear Melanie speak a few weeks back as part of our Taking Time in Tech series that my colleague Sandra Patel-Stewart is organising, all about looking after your own mental health and mindfulness during these challenging times. Melanie did a superb job on the webinar. So I thought we've got to invite this lady onto the podcast and find out a little bit more about her journey and take some of her amazing tips for our listeners as well. So happy to have you on the show today, Melanie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Amazing. No, I can't wait to hear all about your journey. And I loved on your profile how it mentions all your amazing career achievements. But I love the twist that you mentioned on your sort of like profile, how now you're prioritizing your life balance to allow you to do a great job for your team, as well as being a fantastic mum. And I think that resonates with so many people that I just can't wait to find out a little bit more about how it's a journey for everyone, right? But how you're achieving that balance and what works and what doesn't work, because it's a common problem that everyone struggles with, right?
It is, and it is not easy. It wasn't easy before COVID. It's probably slightly harder with COVID.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine actually. So it's certainly tough, and I think there's definitely some top tips that we can delve into a little bit further around that as well. But as always, I would love to start the podcast today by finding out a little bit more about your current role and what you're up to at BPDTS.
Firstly, well done for being able to say it. I can say it, but we found if you say it really fast and get the B and the S right, it flows. So my current role is Digital Service Practice Manager. So I actually work in our delivery management practice, and I have a team of around, I think it's 9, possibly 18 now, but around 18, 19 people who are spread throughout the UK, predominantly in Blackpool, because that's where we're based. I also have a group in London, and they are responsible for managing all the projects and programs, or a number of projects and programs for the DWP. So at the moment, my team are quite busy in Blackpool because we're looking after a lot of the emergency changes that have been going in for the benefits payment systems.
Oh, cool. Right. Okay.
So allowance, carers allowance, all those sorts of things have been. My team have been delivering the changes that the permanent secretary and those people have been requiring for supporting the British public. And
I imagine at the moment it's been chopping and changing the direction, and the kind of demands and priorities have been here, there and everywhere for you at the moment. So
absolutely.
Definitely a challenge.
I was going to say, throw in trying to transition from working in an office to working at home and working remote, and it's been quite a learning.
Yeah, you didn't normally work. Yeah, you didn't work remote very much before.
No, predominantly most of my team were actually based in their local offices. We try to co-locate where we can. Yeah. So we find that works better for whether you're using, one of the agile methodologies or one of the waterfall methodologies. It works better if everyone's together, because the thing that makes a project work for me is people talking. So it helps if they're all sat together and they're all good teams together. So yeah, having to then go remote was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it's just using different collaboration tools, right, to the best of their advantage. But it's tough, isn't it? And it is missing the human interaction piece. And you're a real people person, so I can see that's definitely got its challenges, isn't it? So you've got this amazing role then, digital services practice manager. It's a big old role, lots of responsibility. But how did you get there? How did you get into tech, and how did you get to where you are today?
How did I get there? I got into tech at 8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad was in tech.
Right. What did your dad do?
He started off as a developer, but he finished his career working for EDS. It became HP.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually, I think he was one of their account managers for the post office account. So he was one of their bid executives for that, looking after the bids they were doing for the post office. But at the time, he was a developer for what was IRI, which got bought by Oracle.
Okay.
And he was adamant that his daughter was going to learn how to code. So at 8 years old, I wanted a Barbie and I got a BBC Micro.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, you got it at the time.
I was, until Dad explained that I could program a Barbie into the BBC Micro, which I thought would be very cool. I couldn't because there were no books on how to do it, but theoretically I could have done. And he taught me how to code. So I was coding in BASIC.
That's so lovely that you used to do that together.
Yeah, and he would get me doing little things and have the computer doing all sorts of things and games and bits and bobs. And I just loved it. I just found I had a real knack for it. And then we moved abroad. I was 12 when we moved abroad. My dad got posted out to Dubai and then Singapore.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I just carried on with tech. I just found I had a brain that understood computers. I could work with computers. I loved them. I did go through a brief period at A-level where I hated them and I was going to go and be a PR executive because they got to have parties all the time, was my thinking. So that's what I was going to go and do.
I think when most people turn 18, a lot of people are into the party scene, aren't they? So,
yeah,
like you said, PR probably sounded quite appealing back then.
It did. And I can remember my mum sat me down and said, okay, here's the salary of a PR person, here's the salary of a successful computer executive. And I kind of went, I'll go and do computing, Mum, thank you very much. I'll go and become an IO of some organisation somewhere. So I went down that route and I actually ended up getting a job as a graduate. We used to have graduate schemes at Ford Motor Company.
Okay, fab.
Based down in Essex. And I wanted to be a business analyst, because I was quite good at explaining technology to non-technical people.
And it's such a great skill to have that, isn't it?
I am just in awe of them half the time. But Ford sort of said, yeah, that's great. No, you're going to go be a project manager. And I was responsible for 2 of their plants and making sure they got the software in time. And I had Pretoria and St. Petersburg.
Wow.
Yeah. And
you had to travel a lot from a young age then?
Actually, you didn't have to travel out there because they had all the tools set up. We would deploy software remotely. We had second-by-second plans for deploying software remotely.
Oh, perfect.
To push it out to the factories because they can only close for a short period of time. So you had like 5 minutes doing an entire software upgrade for these massive plants because you couldn't afford the downtime on the production line.
Wow. That's pressure.
That was interesting.
That's pressure right there.
And I will tag Paul Rose in this because that's where I met him, and he and I we're still very good friends now. Which is weird. We bumped into each other in London a few months ago and we were both stood there going, oh my goodness, of all the places.
Wow. It's a small world, isn't it?
It is. And from there, Ford put me in charge of various programs. So I ran the EMEA program to upgrade all their dealer network, which was quite interesting. And then I moved out to New Zealand.
So you had a lot of responsibility at we're talking 23 here?
Yeah.
And you're looking after what size budgets?
Oh God, I cannot remember how big the Ford one was. That was several tens of millions I had
Wow.
Yeah. And I had to go through contracts.
I couldn't even look after my own salary and my own wages, let alone being responsible.
Weirdly, I was better at looking after project budgets than I was looking after my own finances. There were more people that cared about what I did with that money than what I did with mine.
So what led you to New Zealand?
I was with someone at the time. We decided we'd go out and just explore the world, really. And because I travelled as a kid, New Zealand popped up and I kind of went, well, I've not been there. Okay.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, and we were based in Wellington. I worked for New Zealand Post and Fujitsu out there and did some fairly major programs out there. The last one I did for Fujitsu was working with the ANZ Bank, where I was their IT program manager for their, they were kind of doing a merger with the National Bank of New Zealand, so bringing two major banks together, and you're trying to bring lots of disparate IT systems all together to support this new kind of big bank, which was incredibly challenging. And then I actually had some personal stuff that I was going through, so I actually just left New Zealand. It was 1 year. I was just like, no, I'm going. It was too far from home for me. You know, I'm half Italian. I'm from Lancashire. You know, family's fairly well embedded in my roots, and it was like, this has been great, but I'm good now. I need to go home. So I did.
That happens to a lot of people, though, doesn't it? I think, like, particularly if something happens in your personal life, but also just in general. Like, I went travelling for sort of 2 years, and then I was just like, I don't really know. One day I just got up, I was like, why am I really here? I was living in Sydney for ages, and I was just like, I mean, it's fun, but it's not real life, and I need to go home and crack on. And I just couldn't really get my head around it. I was like, I don't even know I'm here anymore. I'm off.
Yeah, and it is like that. I think it's important to see the world, but I think, because I look at our family, because I've got my close family, I consider to be, you know, I've got a brother and two cousins. We saw a lot of our cousins growing up, so they're almost like sisters more than cousins.
Yeah.
I have family on my mum's side as well that I also consider to be close to, but they spent a lot of their time abroad, or up here in the northwest of England, which has always been home. And I look at my brother and these two cousins who, on my dad's side, who've gone off and they're going to travel the world. And they can almost go and travel the world because I'm going to be the home base.
Yeah.
You know, we're up here, we're near uncles and aunts, we're near parents. You know, I'm here. You know, I'm the home bird.
Yeah, that's nice though, isn't it?
We can all come back, which I quite like.
Yeah, no, I love that too. It's so important, isn't it? And that helps you with that balance aspect as well, isn't it? Having that great support network around you is so important.
That is so important to have that.
So when you came back then?
When I came back, I did nothing for a few months, which I'd never done before, so that was interesting.
How was that?
I got bored very quickly. I've had a personality profile done that says gets bored easily. It's like, yeah, that's really true. Quickly. And so I ended up going contracting, and I started off contracting with the Co-op Bank in Manchester.
Yeah. Oh.
And I can still remember that I thought I completely tanked the interview, and I can remember the recruitment consultant rang up and he said, they want you for the role. And I just fell about, and he was like, can you please stop laughing? I'm like, no, they really don't want me. He said, they really do. I'm telling you, they want you. I'm like, no, they really
fudged the interview.
Really
My God. It's funny, isn't it? I always find it really funny when I have those conversations with people and they're like, I don't think I did a great job. And I'm like, well, clearly you did. Like, you clearly did an amazing job. And if you let yourself down a little bit and you go back and do even better, which you're saying you could do, they're going to be really impressed. Because they already love you anyway.
Yeah, so it was just so weird. I can remember being stood in my parents' living room, just creased up, and he was like, please, will you just stop laughing?
And are you going to take the offer?
Yeah, are you going to take it? And I'm like, I don't
know. Good for you.
So that was good. That was a lot of fun. I met a lot of lovely people.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on one of their card programs there, which is as an IT engagement. No, they're a business engagement manager, which is really good, and I met a lot of good people there.
Mm-hmm.
And got exposure to some of the back end credit risk systems that banks use.
Okay.
Which then helped because we moved down south, and I was actually asked to go and interview for a role with a company called FICO. Which stands for Fair Isaac Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And they are an American company, but they provide most of the back-end credit risk software, fraud detection, fraud prevention. I am in awe of the data scientists, because they can now do fraud prediction as well, which I still don't understand the math, but they can look at...
I actually know someone that's just starting a job with them, actually.
Oh, do you? Oh, they are.
She's not started yet, so I won't say her name, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. I got to work with some really, really amazing clients. Mm-hmm. So I worked with Barclays, I worked with Lloyds, I worked with quite a few banks in EMEA.
Oh, fab.
And yeah, and again, I'm still in touch with quite a few people that I work with there. And I can remember I had Barclays, and a friend of mine, she had the Lloyd's account. And I can remember they got to the point where we were going somewhere for kind of like a corporate getaway, and we weren't allowed to fly on the same plane because we had the two major accounts. So if something happened to both of us,
no way,
we kind of lost the people who had the charge of the major accounts. So we had to go on separate planes.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Really funny. We thought
mitigate risk.
Yeah, we were like, how did that happen? And then so I worked for them for a bit, and then I had Stephanie, and going into London from where we were living just wasn't feasible anymore. And all the travelling.
How old is Stephanie?
She's 5. She turned 5 in April.
I think, didn't she gate crash the taking time in tech event?
Yeah, she totally gate crashed that. She gate crashes most of my calls.
So cute.
She is brilliant. I can remember she'll often come at, like, if I've upset her or done something or haven't done something, she'll come up and very politely ask me to get off my call so she can shout at me properly.
Oh, really? That's so great.
I'll do that then. So I finished.
Wait, whilst my 5-year-old just tells me off. I've been out of order.
5-year-old just keeps me in line.
Yeah, she looked really cool actually when she came on. She looked nice, like full of life, like.
Oh,
great.
she is.
Yeah,
she is. She is just a bundle of joy. She really is amazing. So I finished with them and then went contracting again, but I was working for Santander as an IT engagement manager, which meant that I was kind of the liaison between the business and IT. And I made sure that I could understand what the IT people were talking about when they were talking about why things were going to be a particular timescale, and then was trying to translate all that back and forth between them. Yeah, which was brilliant. And then we wanted to be close to family, so we moved back up here. And I was still contracting for a bit. I got my GDPR qualification.
Great.
Which was fun. So
which back like what 3-4 years ago now? It was
just seems so long, doesn't it? So much has happened since then.
Yeah, that feels like a world ago now. Like when everyone GDPR was everywhere, every role we got, they were looking for GDPR specialists.
Yeah. So I finished with I was up here. I had a contract up here with the Federation of Small Businesses, which is brilliant because they do so much for small businesses. That was really quite rewarding to see what they were doing to help small businesses. It was really nice to be part of that voice. And then I applied for a role because I was still contracting, but I knew that I wanted something more permanent that wasn't contracting, so I knew I'd keep a work-life balance for Stephanie. So I applied for this role when it was advertised in Blackpool and got it. And haven't looked back since, really.
Fantastic. And it sounds like you've got a really good culture. I know, because you used to work with Paul Pilling, right? Who we know and love at Transition Partners. Paul's one of our clients at Conveyor, and he's great. And he spoke so highly of you when we were taking time in tech. I think he was really pleased to be able to see you. Such a great guy. So so it seems like it's a really great team over there. So let's go back then, because there's something that I mentioned at the start, but then you mentioned it again then about with having your daughter and managing, prioritizing that life balance. What are your top tips for it, Melanie?
I think the top tip is you have to be really honest with yourself about whether it's something you actually want to prioritize or not. I have always been very career driven. I was always working the long hours. I do loads of traveling at FICA. I thought nothing of being phoned up on a Friday and being told you're going to Johannesburg on Sunday, and I drop everything, jump on a plane and go. I say that I'm a really bad traveller, so actually I panicked a lot. Thought I was going to
had to have a few wines before the flight.
Yeah, I didn't sleep the whole flight. Which is like, what am I doing in Johannesburg?
You'd always prioritise.
But I prioritised work. I got a lot of personal satisfaction from what I did. I love the fact that all my roles were very people-centred. I love that thrill of delivery. And then when I had Stephanie and I was still trying to live that same lifestyle, and I was just like, you know what, I just don't want to do it. I miss her too much. I want to be here for her. And I personally, my top tip would be you have to be really honest, and if it's what you want to do, you almost have to let that part of you go and accept that that person you were before you had children has changed and you've got different priorities now. That doesn't mean...
I love that, because I know exactly what you mean, and it's so tough, isn't it, when you want to be everyone and you want to do everything perfectly. You want to be this career woman who's doing amazing things, but then also like you need to do what's right for you, and you do need to like look quite inwardly, don't you, and be really honest.
You do, and you have to
actually really want.
It might not be, you might want to be, and it's okay to still say, actually, you know what, yes, I love having my kids, but I still want to have this amazing career.
Of course, yeah.
That there are things in place that allow you to do that. Stephanie would be in nursery at 7 a.m. and I'd pick her up at 6 p.m. That was what I did to make that bit work and she was fine. She had a lovely nursery. She was perfectly safe, and loads of time with us at the weekends and everything. But I just kind of thought, no, you know what? I'm going to let that part go. And I can remember I posted quite a lot when I joined BPDTS about work-life balance, because it struck me that actually, weirdly, it was okay for me as a mum to say, I want this work-life balance, but it wasn't as okay for some of my male colleagues to say, yeah, but I want it as a dad as well.
Yeah.
It was almost like a bit of reverse sexism, if you see what I mean. So there's an ambulance going past it, if you can hear that window open. And I thought that was really interesting, that I was able to say, no, actually, I want to work these hours, I'm going to do it. And people almost like understood, because I was a mum, but I wasn't sure that my male counterparts would have the same understanding if they'd said the same thing.
Yeah.
Certainly in previous employers, I'm not sure they would have done. And I wondered I can remember thinking, I wonder how many actually would prefer to work a shorter day and go pick the kids up from school, but feel they can't because they have to be, and they have to have the career to provide.
It's tough, isn't it? It's so tough getting it right. And just because you feel like that now, you can go back to that. You like, as people, we need to be able to like adjust and adapt and pivot and through various stages in your life. You're gonna want different things, and that's fine. Some years you are going to be more motivated. Other years you're not. You're going to be quite happy sitting where you are because you like this job and you're happy for a year. But it doesn't really matter. It's about looking after yourself, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's it's about looking after yourself. It's also being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
There's a lovely.
Well, I think that's what most people struggle with as well, isn't it? Like actually being really truly honest with yourself.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. And I'm lucky because my husband, Stephanie's dad, is really supportive.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, if that's what you want to do, then fine, we'll make it work. Equally, when I wanted to have your single dancing career, he'd do a lot of the pickups with Stephanie. He was there for us. He was there. He's always been a rock as far as I'm concerned. He's let me go. He's the reason I could go off and have these amazing careers. He'd drive me to the airport whilst I was panicking about going to Johannesburg, but and he was there to pick me up from the airport as well. He's just always been someone I can rely on. I think I'm very lucky in that respect as well, that we have that sort of a relationship.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'd say the same about you as well. It's it's great to be able to have that support network, isn't it? It'll be interesting then. You went into tech at such a young age. Like your dad's obviously been a huge influence on you, and that is so fantastic. Like I kind of envision see you two together doing that coding at a young age. It sounds amazing. Yeah. Like that's so cool. But obviously we do face challenges. It will be interesting to find out about sort of what challenges you've faced and what challenges you think the next generation can expect and what we can do to help prevent those challenges and stop the blockers.
It's interesting because I was thinking about that one. A lot of the challenges I faced were a lot about being a young, not just a woman, but a young woman.
I can imagine when you were 23 managing these huge global programs at Ford.
Yep. And you're not being taken seriously because...
Imagine that was something, you certainly
you are fresh out of university, and it doesn't mean you don't have any good ideas, but people are less likely to, at the time, were less likely to kind of discredit them because it's like, oh, what is she? She's not got the experience. And I can remember you did get very shouty characters. It wasn't everybody. Most of the people that I've worked with, luckily, have been really nice people to work with, but there were some that were very shouty. And I do remember going to one of their Women in Tech events. It wasn't called that, apparently it was called. And I can remember there was one there who I struggled, and she was doing this talk about how to be more aggressive in the workplace. And that just didn't sit right with me, because that wasn't how I was raised. I was raised that everyone brings their own unique skills and talents, and I should just be me, and that would be fine. And here is she telling me I'm quite empathetic, I'm quite kind, I like people, and I'd rather talk than get angry. And trying to listen to some of these people, it's like, oh no, I can't. Why would I do that? Why would I treat someone I work with like that?
It's sad, because she obviously felt like that was important. How long ago was that?
Oh gosh, that might reveal my age. That was my early 20s. So that.
But if you think about that now, you probably think it's just sad, isn't it? That's how, not only her, the audience obviously felt the same as well, that they had to do that to get their.
Yeah, but some of it was like that, and I can remember then being in situations where you'd get shouty people, or people who were making a fist because they've been really aggressive with you. And I just learned to kind of go, oh, all right, you're one of them, that's fine. And I just didn't let it bother me. Because it was almost like I started to understand that they obviously had some sort of inbuilt fear, or they were worried about something, or they felt, rather than, if they felt they were going to be attacked, they would attack first in order to defend themselves.
Yes.
Things like that. So those are some of the challenges that I faced. It was less around getting into tech, because universities and employers were really geared up to get more women into tech, which was great. But what you then found with my career, being on my course and someone saying to me, well, you're only here because they had to fill a certain quota.
Really?
Yeah. And I was there thinking, I thought I got in because
who said that?
Results.
Who said that to you?
One of the people on my course, one of the men on my course, sort of said, we're only here because you have to fill a quota.
You must have been so worried that you were so much better at him that he had to say that. And I think what you were mentioning earlier around like people who just get angry and defensive, like when you're young and impressionable, you take it and you get upset, don't you? And you kind of like, you're confused about it, you don't understand why someone's talking to you. But like with time and with confidence, you really think, God, that person's really got a problem. Like it's them, it's completely them, it's their problem.
Not me.
And then you just get to the point where you're trying to understand people, aren't like you're trying to get on a level, you're trying to understand where their frustrations come from. You're so cool, calm and collected. I'm sure you do a superb job of that, but it's tough when you're younger and when you're entering an industry that's notoriously tough and competitive, and you clearly didn't let that phase you in the slightest, like duck off all water's back, because you can see that the way that your career has just progressed, which is amazing.
Thank you.
It's great to see. Yeah, that's fantastic. I think you made some really great points there. That I think sometimes when you're in situations, in toxic environments like that, and it does happen on any meeting in any environment, it's hard to see the wood from the trees, isn't it? But you need to be able to step away and understand that.
But that's where having a coach or having a mentor, someone who's outside the organisation, can help.
Yeah, I think so. Can you, on that bit then, can you talk us a bit about your Living Leader trainer and what that means?
I can. Living Leader is a course devised by the brilliant Penny Ferguson.
Okay.
You can follow her on LinkedIn and Twitter. She is just, not Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah.
She is brilliant. So Living Leader is a personal leadership program. And the point is, as she made in her Facebook Live thing this morning, is that a lot of people think leadership is telling other people what to do. And it's not. That's management. Leadership is believing in them when they don't believe in themselves. Leadership, as she said, is about, this morning's one was about taking people to a cliff. And it's about taking someone to a cliff edge and going, I know you can fly. And they're going, I can't fly, I can't fly, I can't fly, I can't fly. And you're just going to go, yeah, you can. And you either take their hand and you show them how to fly and let go so they can see they can do it themselves, Or there are certain characters where you just have to give them a great big shove and they fly, and they're sat there going, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe I could fly. Thank you so much for
Giving
doing
you the
this
push.
for me.
That's amazing. So it's a course that you did then?
Of course I did. So you go on the Living Leader course initially, which is 3 days. And then my organisation loved it so much, they decided they would roll it out to everybody. And they put a certain group of us through the training programme to train as trainers. And we then deliver that course.
So was this with BPDTS?
For BPDTS, yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And so you learn how to deliver that course, but that basically you go through a really intensive 2-week program where you're just completely immersed in the learnings and the training and the lessons. And it's incredible. I mean, you learn management theory, but you also learn how to use listening to coach others. You learn about empowering questions. You learn about smog language, so the disempowering language like should, must, ought and got to. You learn how to, and this is all stuff you get to then give people as part of the course, is you learn about give, get, and about how you have no control over what you get from others, whether that's respect or love or kindness, but you can control what you give.
Yeah.
So going back to those shouty people, you can't get them to listen to you or value what you have to say. Yeah. But what you have to then work out, okay, what can I give you? Can I give you understanding? Can I give you my patience? Can I give you the benefit of the doubt? Or can I just give you a lot of space whilst I calm down?
Agree. Yeah, I think it sounds like you've got a lot of that, and that's giving you a lot of power, I guess, to step away from it and be able to look back and reflect on things really well, which is really valuable. And I'm sure that's been an amazing tool then for your team as well. So you mentioned earlier about mentors. So have you always had a mentor?
I've always tried to. I don't at the moment. I'm currently looking for another mentor.
Amazing. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, I try and always have a mentor. But I loved what it was something Vanessa Vallely said when she did a talk at Santander, which she said, you shouldn't be looking for a mentor unless you're already mentoring others.
Oh, really? Because you're not able to.
You're asking for someone to help you, but you should also be looking for who you can help, because there's always somebody that you can help. So I now mentor. I mean, I mentor through the British Computer Society. I mentor through Everwise, and I'm a mentor at BPDTS as well. Just to try and help people. And oftentimes it's women in the industry who are saying, well, actually, and it's interesting because oftentimes it's things like, well, I don't know if I should go for this promotion or not. And at the end of 6 weeks, they've either realised that the promotion is right for them and got it, or they've kind of gone, you know what? Actually, I think I want a bit of a career change. Or I don't really want to go for that promotion. What I'm thinking is I want to go in this direction.
And it's not any longer that they don't feel like they can not apply for it. It's that it's not right for them and they've decided.
Exactly.
And that's empowering, isn't it, really?
That's it. It's about empowering people.
Love that. Yeah, no, that's really great. So quick couple of questions, and I won't keep you much longer, but I'd love to, who's been the greatest role model for you?
It's a toss-up between my mum and my daughter.
That sound like good ones.
I would say. My mum didn't go to university. She could have done, but didn't. She stayed home to raise us. And when I went to university, she actually went and did a counselling qualification. And although she couldn't say, oh, I've got these previous, other qualifications, she said, actually, she used all her life experience, the fact that she'd counselled 2 teenagers through moves around the world. She'd done these different things, and she used that and she replayed that, and she has never stopped believing in me. When I was little and say I want to be an air stewardess, Mum would go, you could be a pilot. I want to be a nurse. You could also be a doctor. I want to work in, I want to be a developer. You could also be a chief information officer. She would always take it that one step further.
Mum, that's what we like to hear. Good old mum, taking you to the next, that positive encouragement. And your daughter.
Yeah. And Stephanie. She is just, over the last year, she's just developed her own personality. And we talk on Living Leader about empowering questions, and I've been using that. And the idea is you can use a lot of leadership skills at home, And I've been using with Stephanie. So, for example, she's trying to do something. She says, oh, I can't do this. And I'll say, well, if you knew that you could, where would you start? Which is an empowering question. And she'll go, oh, okay. And then the other morning, 4:30 in the morning, and can I go downstairs and watch television? No. If you knew that it meant that you could get to sleep, would you let me? Don't question me.
Wow. And what was your response to that?
I think I just let her watch a tablet at that point, because I didn't have the mental capacity to think about what the right answer was at that point.
God.
Fine.
Yeah, you don't know what to do with someone with that much personality at 4:00 in the morning. Wow.
Yeah, but she is just unashamedly herself. She believes in herself.
Yeah.
And she has so much confidence.
That's
so
amazing.
much confidence. She just believes she can do it.
That's great, isn't it? Fearless. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So I love to end the podcast with like words of wisdom, or like something you'd have told your younger self that you think now you've learned would help. Words of
Something
wisdom.
I would go back and tell my younger self. I would actually just tell myself to go with the flow and stop worrying so much.
Really?
Just roll with it. I spent a lot of time trying to drive and push and create a career and take myself to where I thought I needed to go. And actually, when I look back on my career, it's all just kind of happened at the right time. The roles have come along, and as soon as you let go of trying to steer it and just trust that it will work out the way it's supposed to, and let go.
Yeah. I love that, because so many, like, I mean, I think of it now, I'm 30 this year, so I'm still young, like, but you kind of think about back to your early 20s, don't you? And you think about how much you wanted to control things and how things didn't work out and it's a mistake, and it's all just part of your story. It's all just led you to where you're meant to be right now, and to the state of position you're in, which is hopefully, to our listeners, you're all in a happy place and a good place. And if not, then that obviously needs to be looked at, doesn't it? But it's just interesting. You worry and you stress, but in the end, everything is usually all right. So it's great to hear that there's no point stressing about your uncontrollables. And I think there's a lot that can be learned from that. So yeah, love it. I've loved having you on the podcast. So thanks so much for spending your afternoon with me. If anyone does want to reach out, if they've got any questions, Melanie, is it best via LinkedIn, Twitter? What's the best form of contact?
Best via LinkedIn, because I confess I can't get my head around Twitter.
No, I can't. I
can't use Twitter at all. I'm rubbish at it.
I'm not very good. Sorry, guys. I know some of you follow me on it, but I don't really know how to use it. So
yeah, I know it's good, but I just can't. I can't even scroll with it properly. I get confused. So yeah, LinkedIn I can cope with.
LinkedIn we can handle. LinkedIn. So if anyone wants to reach out via LinkedIn, Melanie would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for coming on the show, Melanie. It's been fantastic spending some time with you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Good stuff.